Today I want to take a look at Power Automate MS Flow and how to generate a link to the current SharePoint items run history. So the use case here is that we run MS Flow on a SharePoint item and we want to navigate from the SharePoint list into the history for that specific row. Let me go ahead and create a new list and we'll walk through it step by step. So here we're going to create a blank list and I'll just call this expense report. We'll show it in the site navigation. Fair enough. We'll create a currency column, total amount. And for our purposes, that will be the only fields that we need. Over in Power Automate MS Flow, we're going to create a new automated cloud flow when an item is created. That will be for a SharePoint list. We're going to bring over the URL of the SharePoint site. And for list name, we'll go ahead and pick out expense report. And we're going to do a new step for an approval action. Start and wait for an approval. Approval type. First to respond. And for title, please approve expense report. And that's really about it. We'll go ahead and assign it to current user. And for item link, we can put over here a link to the item. This will be view SharePoint, view expense report. And we'll save that. So this is a very simple Power Automate MS Flow. When an item is created, go ahead and start and wait for an approval. Find the list for expense report. Start an approval on that specific item, email it to one person, and wait for the approval to come back. Now, the experience I'd like to have is to provide a link to the run history on this list to surface the run history for user visibility. So what we'd really like to see is something like a run history link that will then take me out to show the MS Flow run history. I mean, you can get there, but it's kind of roundabout. You have to go open a new tab, go over to Flow, know which flow you're looking for that's connected to that list. There's sort of a loss of visibility that you have to almost be the developer to go navigate and find the run history for a specific row. In this case, we're going to put down here, trip to DCA, we'll put down a number, and we will save it. There we go. And that can open up and run the MS Flow. Now the way that we're going to get this is with a special function using workflow. Workflow is the name of a context variable inside of Power Automate that can give us the link to the current instance. Workflow is the name of the function. So in the flow design, what we're going to go ahead and do is add a new action to support this visibility to run history. We're going to add a compose data operation, and then we're going to add another compose data operation. And the first one is going to bring in the expression workflow open close parentheses. This is our context variable for the workflow overall. So we'll go ahead and save that. We'll rename. Actually, we're just going to shorten that up to workflow history. Okay, so workflow history is the name of our new hyperlink field. We'll go ahead and bring that in. Open up the demo site, same list, going back to where we started, putting down the ID number of the same one that we started with. Title, we can apply that to be the same. And workflow history, this is going to be the output of the concat. So that is going to be how we populate the workflow history URL. Go ahead and save there. And so with the MS Flow updates that we have, we're going to take a look at the compose concat in more detail. This particular function is actually bringing in several different components of the workflow parameters, the environment name, the name of the workflow, and then the run of the workflow. So first is the environment. then the workflow itself, and finally the run. There's 3 different segments. All of this becomes the concat function that we're sharing. So looking at our flow a little more carefully, we want to make sure we name this action step with the workflow parameter. We give it the name compose, very simple name. And then for the formula of the concat, we're going to leverage the output of compose in 3 segments. The first segment is going to be the environment. The second is the workflow name, and finally the run. So there's 3 levels of specificity: the environment first, the workflow second, and the run third. So we'll bring in all of those together. And here we can open up the function, take a look, see everything bringing together. Yes, there it is, concatenate the URL. And we'll do the flow checker to make sure there's no errors. Go ahead and save, looks good. And now we can come over here and do a new one. And this might be, put in an amount, put in a description, go ahead and save. Come back over to Power Automate, check our run history, and we can edit with Designer and click Save. Sometimes when you come into Flow and you save, that will wake it up to do the change detection, and you'll see your run happen faster. So when you're in the middle of testing, clicking the Save button a lot actually helps because it wakes up the change detector. All right, so we have over here, and look at that. We now, go ahead and pause it on the URL. We have a workflow history URL. I'm going to take that and copy the link over to clipboard. Allow, good, yes. And we can see the results. Very cool. There's the link. Yes. Open it up. There's the URL. There's the run history. And we'll go ahead and bring these up side by side just so we can see them. So what we have from our formula to the final is the environment name coming in dynamically. There it is, default with a GUID number. The name of the workflow, which is this GUID number right here. And then finally the name of the run, which is yet another GUID number after runs. So it's kind of interesting to see the 3 parts: the environment, the flow, and then the run. But this series of concatenation allows us to make a URL to that single instance and give visibility for end users into the full run history. That's very powerful for audit, for support, for debug, and showing end users how flow executed. In the old on-prem world, this was somewhat easier with SharePoint Designer's workflow history list in the site. With Power Automate MS Flow, it's a little bit different because they're 2 different systems. So frequently you're opening a new tab, you got to go navigate to the flow. You have to know which flow to even look for. What's the timing of the history? My SharePoint item was at 8 a.m. Is the flow history 8 a.m.? It's very challenging to do all that manually. With this simple series of concatenation, we're able to give end users a link directly to the run history. So the user experience becomes very simple. They see their SharePoint list item, they see a field for workflow history, they click it, and they can view the entire audit trail for that specific item. And the ability to give people a link to one item for one instance of history really helps us a lot with audit and support to give the best user experience. Thanks for watching.